Alright folks, here's a few tips to get you started with the first versions of the Oxygen Not Included alpha that went public in February 2017. Currently, the game doesn't tell you what to do, and there's a lot to learn, so let's get you going with the basics. We'll assume that you've already tried to play the game, and so know the basic controls, and the fact that you don't control people directly, merely set what jobs need to be done, and where. Of course, the game will be expanded and rebalanced over time, so this guide won't cover stuff such as diseases, which are yet to be properly implemented. And some of this advice is bound to go out of date, so check the Clay forums for the latest tips. Get digging, but watch out for gas! You're going to need a lot of space for your colony, so right away get digging. Select dig from the bottom right, or press G, then paint where you want your duplicates to dig out. But avoid digging out green oxylite blocks. They produce essential oxygen at the start of the game. This gives you a limited amount of time to set up other ways to produce it once the oxylite runs out. Also, avoid digging into pockets of dangerous gas for now. Press F1 or select the oxygen overlay from the top right if you want to see how breathable an area is. Duplicants can walk through bad gas for a while, but if they spend too long in an unbreathable area, they suffocate and die. If you do find unwanted gas, be aware that carbon dioxide will slowly sink to the bottom of an open area, and hydrogen rises to the top, so plan your colony with this in mind. Oh, and a quick word about navigation. Your duplicants are 2 tiles high. They can climb 2 tiles without a ladder, and need a space of 2 tiles high when walking through tunnels. Planning and building rooms. Everything is about planning for the future in this game. On day 1, you can get away with putting stuff like beds for your colonists to sleep in pretty much anywhere, but over time you'll want to give them each a small room with a door, so they don't keep each other awake with their farting and whatnot. To build rooms, use tiles. They act as walls, floors and ceilings. You can use existing rock etc. for walls, but you'll be wanting all that as raw materials. When you select the tile, like with many other things, you can choose which material to build it out of. You may as well choose sandstone, because you'll have a lot of that, but it does sometimes default to a different, rarer material, and your building may never happen. Try to keep related things together so a colonist doing a job doesn't get split between areas, though it will take practice and experience to best plan this. A very quick word on decor. Ugly machines reduce it, pretty things increase it. Check the decor overlay for a quick way to see this. You won't be able to do much about it early on, at least not until you've done some research, but it's worth leaving space in your rooms for when you can build decor improving items such as paintings. I tend to build my rooms 4 tiles high to make sure that I can fit some paintings in later on. Also, use these early doors to keep out the effects of bad decor and noise. Note that these do not stop the flow of gas into the room, good or bad. Know your building materials. Everything you build requires spare materials, either fetched from your storage units or just lying around on the ground after being mined or whatever. Anything you need early on, copper, dirt, algae, sand and that, will be close to the portal. Stuff further away won't be useful right away. Duplicants will go fetch stuff on the ground, but it takes time and may involve going through bad gas or puddles of piss, which makes them unhappy. So do build storage units, and remember to tell the unit what should be stored there, or nothing will be. Water isn't technically a building material, but your colonists will need to fetch a lot of it for stuff such as food, so ensure that you always have access to some. BOGS. By now, you will probably have already built a toilet without me telling you to. Kudos for that, cowboy! But now we know about planning ahead and decor, so you may end up wanting to relocate it away from your main thoroughfares. These toilets do get blocked from time to time and take a while to fix, so having 2 toilets on the go is a good shout. If a colonist isn't able to use a toilet, they will eventually produce contaminated water, which will stress out anyone who touches it, unsurprisingly. Remember, you can mop spilled liquids. Click the mop button and paint where you'd like them to mop. It's worth noting that you'll eventually be able to build fancy bogs and recycle contaminated water into clean water. Also, compost heaps make good bedfellows with your starter toilet, converting waste into fertiliser. Powering up. You will need a power grid early on because most machines require power, so build a manual generator straight away. When you go into the power grid overlay, This happens automatically if you choose to build electric wire, or you can toggle it with F2. You'll see that any machine that needs power will have a little plug socket on it. Run the wire through walls if you can. Wires in open space are ugly to your colonists and will lower their mood. Just make sure the wires you are building are within a few tiles of where your duplicants can actually navigate to. You should also build a battery or two and link it to the grid, so when your colonists aren't producing power, there is some in reserve to actually power your machines. You can research more advanced power stations, but in the current alpha they have important disadvantages, and manual power often ends up being the best. Get researching. If you don't do any research, you won't be able to build most of what's in the game, but now you have a power generator, it's time to get researching, boffins! Once you have actually built a research station from the Stations tab, you need to wire it into your grid. Once it's powered, click the research station and click Open Research to pick something for them to actually do. You can also get to this screen by pressing R at any time. Explore these research items at your leisure, but for now, you'll have to stick to the basics on the left side of the research tree, before unlocking the stuff on the right, which also needs a supercomputer research station. Farming is a good first choice, since it helps with food production, and allows you to build a terrarium too. Then, to actually start them researching, choose Novice Research from the Recipes window of the research station, and click the spinny button. A suitable icon appears in the queue below to show they'll keep on doing research jobs forever. Don't click Fabricate, or they'll only do one research job, then stop. If you've played RimWorld, yeah, it's the whole bills thing all over again. Bloody bills. Making food and oxygen. This is a subject we can only make a small dent in here, so here are the raw essentials. Firstly, food. Your rations will run out, so build and power a microbe musher. Remember to actually tell it to produce some food. And start off by making it out of dirt and water, but later on you might want to grow food in pots. Beware, you'll need a lot of plants for that. You'll also need to have gathered seeds by digging up existing plants in the world. Oxygen-wise, build 1 or 2 algae deoxidizers to convert algae into oxygen. And remember they need power too. If you have a lot of carbon dioxide lurking at the bottom of your colony, build a terrarium that converts it into oxygen, providing it gets some water. Place these near or inside carbon dioxide, otherwise what's the bloody point? How to get more colonists? Ah, a nice easy one. At the moment, you can only get new colonists by waiting. Click on the portal to see when the next one is due. The game will drop you a message when one actually arrives, so click on the portal and choose which one you actually want out of 3, or to reject them all. You'll probably not want to reject any until later on in the game, where extra colonists may end up consuming more oxygen and food than the worth of their work. Focus your colonists. Once you start getting more colonists and more stuff for them to do, you'll start to need to pay attention to the job screen. Duplicants will do the jobs they have ticked, prioritising jobs on the left-hand end. The pinker the square here, the more talented they are at that job. So, you'll want to untick a few boxes where you can, so that everything has a chance of being done. It's easy for low-priority digging or delivering to never get done once you're all busy powering machines and doing research. And play to their strengths. If you really need a job doing ASAP though, it's better to ignore this screen and use the manual priority mechanism instead. You can click anything you're building and ramp up its priority to 9 here, or choose the priority tool, choose a high priority number and paint those numbers like this. And finally, play the damn game. Oh my god, is that really deserving of a tip? Yes, and there's good reason. There's absolutely no way of knowing how to plan an efficient colony until you've played around with the various plumbing options, temperature control, advanced filtration, and near-closed systems that are only available later on. So you're just going to have to play the game you bought. Your life is so hard. Okay, so there's 1,000 other aspects to the game that we haven't touched on, such as lighting and gas pressure, but they're really not that important to understand on your first go. So I'll close by pointing out you can't win the game, yet. Even if you survive for ages with efficient recycling, then maps are finite, and you'll eventually run too low on something like sand or water to continue. Sorry. Anyway, do check out my Let's Play videos on Oxygen Not Included, which start from my very first colony, and learn as they go. And also check out my extensive RimWorld archive, including both vanilla and Call of Cthulhu modded series. Okay, so thanks for watching, subscribe to be notified about when future videos go live, and I'll see you next time. Hang on, who flooded my colony?